as of right now. This started in South LA, and it's a little hard to tell where we are right now, but Los Cerritos, it looks like the map is pointing us out.
Yeah, we want to get that location as soon as possible for you. It looks like they are probably on surface streets here, right near the 405, it looks like, near Long Beach, Los Cerritos area. So what we know, as Gio said, this is a stolen vehicle. It's hard to make out there. It looks like it's a red sedan. The LAPD is pursuing right now at pretty quick speeds. And at this point, we don't have much information on a suspect or suspects. Of course, many times there's multiple people in a car, but at this point, we just know at least the driver is who they're after here.
And of course, when we're dealing with surface streets versus jumping on the freeway, we wonder whether or not this will get handed off to CHP potentially at any point. But maintaining an eye on this as that car is now zooming to close to 80 miles an hour. It did touch the 90s there for a hot second, and now we're in the 80s. But that's that red sedan here that we're keeping an eye on at the moment. Looks like we're on the 710 going north.
Near the Harbor Gateway
but,
area.
I mean, it's you always worry with traffic, especially as we're zoomed in and keeping an eye on everything right now, because as it gets tight, you worry, especially with increasing speeds at this time of night.
Yeah, you see at least two LAPD cruisers behind this car here. And we know many times the question is, will CHP now take over? That will depend on how long this driver stays on the freeway here. Looks like they're getting off the 710 in the North Long Beach area. We're going to watch this and see where this driver goes here.
And it's a little dark, too, on top of all this.
There you go. They got off there, probably on Del Amo Boulevard in the Long Beach area there, and now on surface streets here.
And this is the part where obviously we start getting really antsy when it comes to maintaining maintaining their presence on these surface streets, blowing through lights. That one was green, but at any moment, you could have another car coming through an intersection. But LAPD still in pursuit, close behind as well. That's the cruiser that we see right behind there, and the spotlight overhead. So they're not losing their contact or their eye contact on this vehicle. It almost looked like we had a close call there with one vehicle, but now we're making a left turn, and boy, I mean, it's cutting it close at least a few times so far as we get past this McDonald's.
Now in the Long Beach area, and this is not too far away from South LA, where we know this pursuit first started. Again, wanted for stolen vehicle, but we don't know necessarily the circumstances. But yeah, blowing through these intersections right now. And you can see another thing is the windows look to be tinted on this vehicle as they are now making their way on the opposite side of the road, trying to wrangle their way through some traffic here.
And worth highlighting as well, Leslie made this point earlier, we don't know how many people are in this vehicle right now. Obviously, of course, there's the driver, but oftentimes this early when we jump into a pursuit, we can't really make out more beyond if there's a passenger, there's someone else in the back seat. We're trying to zoom in right now, see if we can get a better look, but those windows are a bit tinted, and just at least the angle we're at, we can't really make out too much beyond just knowing that that driver is there right now.
Yeah, interesting thing here. Sometimes we look at the vehicle, right? We know this is a stolen vehicle, at least allegedly by police. It looks like, but on that vehicle are two probably unique markers. It looks like there's a bumper sticker and another sticker on the back windshield of that vehicle. So that is not something we always see, but definitely identifiers. And at this point, it looks like police are trying to pull back a little bit. And sometimes we see that because they're trying to slow things down.
Right.
This is very dangerous situation, as you're seeing a lot of people on the roadway still tonight here in the North Long Beach area, and police want to calm things down, although they're still pursuing.
And now they're approaching
the
even closer. Yeah, there was that brief respite of sorts where they sort of pulled back, and now he's making a U-turn and slows things down just a bit. But now it looks like we might be going on the wrong side of the road here, and it just heightens the danger even more so as you keep making even more turns. Now down, it looks like we're in a residential area, so it narrows the streets even more. And normally in these situations, when we're keeping an eye on it, I mean, sometimes you get cornered into a cul-de-sac, and then it starts turning into our police just going to have to keep circling around right now. Because this is close to where initially this vehicle was stolen, now you start wondering whether or not this this driver, this pursuit suspect is just trying to go back to an area they're familiar with and trying to find any sort of escape or any sort of getaway. We've seen that many times before, but right now at least the speeds have dialed down just a bit, but LAPD is still certainly in pursuit of this vehicle and staying close behind.
Yeah, and you got to wonder, is it going to come to a dead end here? Because that's where the freeway is. This is where the neighborhood stops. And I don't think this driver knows where they're at right now. Of course, we're pulling back just a little bit, going to give that LAPD airship enough room. You saw them flying underneath SkyCal there. And at this point, it looks like this driver is just going through these very narrow residential streets.
At least the good news in this particular situation is now it looks like we've gotten out of the neighborhood back on those main surface streets, is that it was slowing down a bit. That part of that out of necessity because it was narrow streets, it was dark, and maybe that driver didn't exactly know where they were going, but now we're back on surface streets going 60 plus miles an hour, and you just get worried because of all these lights, and some of them are green, and all these vehicles don't even know, if you're just in traffic on a Saturday night in North Long Beach, then all of a sudden this car starts whizzing by. Well, on top of all these LAPD cruisers directly behind that, then it starts getting nerve-wracking.
Okay, it's hard to make out where that driver is right now. If they're in a community here, it looks like maybe a residential area. If they're in a community here, it looks like maybe a residential area. We'll have to pull out again, but you could see they are making those sharp turns.
Man.
First veering into the wrong lane, now in the median there, definitely in the wrong lane.
Yep.
Very high speeds, especially on a residential roadway. And this is just a very dangerous situation right now.
Getting up past 80 miles an hour. I mean, goodness.
Continuing to ride the median, but also now totally on the wrong side of the road. These are those situations where LAPD really does not want to see. They want to try to de-escalate the situation. Right. And again, they don't know what this suspect may have. They know this is possibly a stolen vehicle, but they don't know if they may be armed or how dangerous they could be.
And that informs a lot of their
Obviously
decision making, right?
Yeah.
Because you want to give them enough space to prevent any sort of danger, but you don't want to put officers' lives in danger as well. But you know that they're constantly communicating in situations like this to maintain an eye over it, because even if you're in the frame right now, you do see that LAPD cruiser, you know that they're directly behind, that there's multiple units in pursuit of this vehicle, but they are in constant communication, even if you don't see the LAPD cruiser in the frame of this vehicle. As we zoom in on the car right now, there's those markers we were pointing out earlier with that look like a bumper sticker, but these tight turns.
Tight turns when there are cars on both sides
just
of
parked,
these residential roads.
just sitting there, and your mind trails off, and we've seen many crashes and collisions where even if it's a parked car, you don't know if that vehicle's then going to fly into someone's front yard or backyard, and if people are just sitting in their homes on a Saturday night relaxing, and then all of a sudden this is going on, and right now it's just simply based on what we've been looking at these last few minutes, sort of going in circles.
Yeah, and that's what's interesting about this, is that this pursuit suspect continues to stay, at least for the last few minutes, in the same North Long Beach area. Again, we know this started in South LA, went down the 710 for a little bit. They have, for the last few minutes, been in this North Long Beach area. You could see they're going to make that U-turn, pretty aggressive U-turn, back to possibly where they were a few moments ago. But yeah, they are kind of staying in that same area, kind of going in circles here, continuing into a residential area, then back on these main streets, back in a residential area. So we'll have to see what this pursuit suspect does next. But LAPD wants this to come to an end.
And oftentimes we see when they start getting, but when I say they, I mean when these pursuits start getting extended just a bit,
Look,
and now it looks like slowing
here.
down. You wonder if they're just going to jump back on the freeway and extend this for a little while,
Going
but now
into an
going
alley.
a back alley, and maybe you start,
you can make out
jumping
one
out.
suspect, the driver there. It looks like they're wearing
blue?
a blue shirt.
Coming out the other end, it looks like, of that alley and picking up speed once again.
And let me know if I'm incorrect on this, Gio, but they didn't have the window down, did they, earlier?
I thought it might have looked like they did, but I couldn't tell if that was, pardon me, if it was, if the window was tinted or not. But I would assume it looked like the window was down if we could make out the color of that driver's shirt.
And we're back in the same area now, right on White Avenue, where we saw this suspect before, just blowing through stop signs in this residential area. Fortunately, the airship is ahead, hopefully giving any other drivers on the road that heads up, hey, something dangerous is happening. Please be aware. But you know what? This person is just whipping these corners so quickly.
It reinforces your point that they're just sort of seemingly, from our perspective, just going back and forth all over, and where SkyCal's was a bit disoriented there for just a second as we flip around and keep an eye on the vehicle there. But it reinforces that notion of them just kind of going around this same residential area, not really jumping on the freeway or taking any sort of advantage to keep it going elsewhere. Picks up speed for a bit and just does those sharp U-turns all the way around where you're worried about them hitting a different vehicle, somebody else that's out there in the middle of traffic on a Saturday night, before inevitably slowing down, trying to find an alley to
just
avoid.
Completely crossing all the wrong lanes, going on to another major street here,
and doing
Artesia Boulevard.
Doing it in a way that would seem to indicate obviously they're trying to get away, but worth repeating once again that you might not see in this particular moment as we zoom in on the driver, that you may not see LAPD in the frame, but they are right behind them the entire time, and you still have the airship overhead. So they're not losing their sight on this vehicle, despite what looks like repeated attempts to dodge LAPD at any moment's notice by the suspect.
Yeah, what's really interesting, and we mentioned it before, is that this suspect is staying in that same area, once again making another U-turn, continuing this pursuit, and it just seems like they're going in circles at this point in the North Long Beach area. We lost them there for a second. You see them there. That's that red car there. Again, the want was a stolen vehicle by LAPD out of South LA. And for the last couple minutes, we've stayed in this North Long Beach area, heading up Long Beach Boulevard again. And we'll see if they'll go to that same neighborhood they were in a few moments ago.
And worth repeating that we don't know if there's anybody else in that vehicle besides the driver. And we're noticing again, right? It is almost like deja vu, right? Or like Groundhog Day. We just sort of keep looping back and making a left turn and circling around into those surface streets, then into these residential areas where you notice cars parked on the sides, and it makes for very tight, narrow spaces for this vehicle. It'll accelerate close to 60 miles an hour at one point, stay around the 40, go right here, just like this, right
White
that
Avenue
alley.
and East Allington.
And it's going to come.
Same exact area we were in moments ago. So you have to wonder, is this person obviously familiar with this area? Do they live around this area? Why do they keep coming back to the same residential community? And at now through
at a certain
through
point,
these very narrow alleyways.
You can't think that you're actually getting away from LAPD, despite continuing to go down these alleys and try and find exit routes, because there are no exit routes right now. If anything, this driver is constraining themselves a little bit more because there's only so many places to go. And the reason we're expressing so much interest or concern is because typically in pursuits like this, you would have already moved on to either a different location, or normally, just based on the length of time, they would have found either a dead end or been stopped right around now. It's just kind of...
Sometimes, and we've seen it, and we've heard Mike Rogers say it on the desk many times, is that these drivers, these pursuit suspects, are just buying themselves a little bit of time. Making calls, talking to people, and they know eventually they will be arrested by LAPD. It's just a matter of when. And of course, LAPD wanting this to end as quick as possible, just because of how dangerous pursuits can be, especially in residential areas like this. Very dangerous to the people living in this community, and all the other drivers on the roadway.
And we've seen, in those very rare, exceptionally rare circumstances where a pursuit driver in a situation like this will have the briefest of moments where they get out and then start taking off on foot, or even we've seen them get out and swap vehicles and then keep the pursuit going in a completely different vehicle, and that's because a friend came by and picked them up, and then they just keep going. But as of right now, we haven't seen any attempts at that. We haven't seen anything other than these last 10 minutes or so as we start pulling in here to, looks like another alleyway. Once again in that same area, and LAPD is in very close pursuit directly behind with the airship over top. There is no breaking the line of sight between officers and this vehicle.
It's safe to say that driver was just going in circles.
Yes.
For a moment. Now driving on the opposite side of the road there for no reason, just swerving straight into the opposite side. It looks like there's some side damage to this vehicle. Correct? Right on top of the tire there?
Yep, right next to the headlight. Yeah, you're right. It does look like that. So, and that's the first time we've noticed it here.
Actually, to the entire right side of the vehicle.
And that was something that we didn't notice at first, and because of the darkness, and we don't even know if it happened at any point during this pursuit or if it was before.
Yeah.
We picked it up and brought it to you here on air. But right now, this moment, like these moments here, where we're out of the alleyways, we're out of the residential areas, those still carry obviously a significant amount of danger. But here is where our nerves start to tick up even a little bit more, because we've seen the driving across, the wrong side of the road with other cars and traffic still hanging around through red lights, yellow lights, green lights, and you never really know what's going to happen.
I'll tell you, Gio, what's making me nervous here is that if they continue down Long Beach Boulevard here, they'll hit the Bixby Knolls area, and that's an area that has a lot of restaurants, lined with restaurants, and a lot of people are out at all times, especially on a weekend. And so you just gotta you gotta hope that they aren't going as quickly as they were.
Yep. Because the margin for error then is it's already near non-existent.
Through this area that has even more pedestrian traffic.
Yeah, you start holding your breath.
You can see people moving out of the way. They're getting that heads up from LAPD and the airship that a pursuit suspect is coming through now through the Compton area. Yeah,
it's nerve-wracking to say the least, on top of worried about every other person that might be out and about, because now even in this moment here on this street on Temple Avenue in Caldwell, they just hit a speed bump. It slowed them down a little bit, picking back up speed, and you have all these cars parked outside of these homes on the sides. There's just not much room to maneuver at all. And this vehicle keeps on going. Like there has been no indication that they're planning on stopping, swapping out, or moving around, doing that sort of thing.
I should also correct myself. I was a little disoriented when I was saying going towards the Bixby area. It's not. They're going the opposite direction on Long Beach Boulevard, which is why they've made it to the Compton area.
And still, like even whether it's in this area or elsewhere, like there's all these vehicles we've already noticed, we've lost count at the numbers, that are just kind of diverting themselves out of the way at the last second. Now, granted, they're helped by the fact that you see you see the lights, you see the LAPD cruisers coming down, you see the spotlight overhead, and knowing that something's going on, like you just saw another vehicle get out of the way. And we've been wondering whether or not this driver's going to take any chance to jump on the freeway. No, if anything, they're just trying, on the sidewalk, and trying to avoid that traffic as we get near the train tracks here. I mean,
that's probably the most dangerous maneuver we've seen this driver make thus far, just driving on top, right through a sidewalk to get past some traffic. And it just shows you at what lengths this driver will go to try to get away. Although
reckless,
we know,
to say the least.
Yeah, although we know that's not going to happen. There's LAPD behind. That airship is the most help.
It's been locked in the entire time. Yep.
If those police officers on the ground can't continue to follow this, if they feel like it's too dangerous and they pull back, there's always that airship that will continue following. And if it's a stolen vehicle, they probably have all the information they need, the license plate.
Right.
They're able to, many times, I don't know what kind of vehicle this is. I don't think we've gotten confirmation on it just yet. But if it's a newer vehicle, sometimes there are capabilities to find this vehicle even later.
They have the playbook, essentially. They have all the information. Everything that they need to know is hitting the brakes right now and making a right turn. I was wondering if they were going to do anything a bit more abrupt. But, you know, one of the sort of silver linings that we're seeing here in just the last couple of minutes here as we've gotten into the Compton area is that, at least by our count, a little bit fewer number of cars than we saw when we were in North Long Beach. And, you know, then we had the really reckless and dangerous driving on the sidewalk maneuver just to avoid traffic. And here we are again in a very similar circumstance where you have a residential area with a lot of cars parked on both sides of the road. And I may have seen a speed bump there for a short second earlier at the front end of that road. But, you know, it's dark. We're going 40 plus, 50 plus miles an hour on a Saturday night. Like right now, as Leslie mentioned, the airship, the light, and all the lights coming from LAPD cruisers are really like the big warning sign for anybody who might just be in the area to just be careful and move out of the way. But yeah, this person is just not, another speed bump there, not really giving up and just going. So as you mentioned, it's a matter of time, right? Because there's nothing we've seen to indicate right now that
slowing down at those speed bumps.
That LAPD is, you know, at the most, as we zoom in, do we see someone else in the passenger seat?
It almost looks like it almost looks like there is something pink.
Yeah.
If that's a person, I'm not sure yet, but it does look like, it does look like there is a passenger. They're on their phone there. Yeah. Maybe wearing a pink shirt or something. It looked like some kind of pink or red color, and then the driver was in blue.
Yeah. So that's the first time we've been able to see beyond knowing that it's just the driver.
Okay, we know at least two people in this vehicle.
At least two people in the vehicle. Stolen vehicle, first reported out of South LA. LAPD's been in pursuit now for upwards. We've been on air now with this for at least 20 plus minutes. So longer than that as we've been trying to keep an eye on this. So at least two, we don't know if it's any more than that, but you know, slowly getting even the damage on the right side of the vehicle. That's something we noticed in just the last few minutes. First, almost primarily above the wheel, but really on the entire right side of the vehicle.
Passenger side. Yeah. You can see some damage near the back passenger window. Oh
boy.
Just swerving in the wrong lanes here.
It might be those speed bumps that are, you know.
Yeah, you take them at such a high rate of speed, it's going to get you there out of control, which is why they're probably trying to slow down a bit. Yeah. Interesting to
Turn heads in the totally redesigned Subaru Outback.
We still believe we're in the Compton area at this point. The car seems to be steering clear of any freeways, just sort of evading these officers and maneuvering around city streets. Sometime around 9:25, we do know that LAPD requested a spike strip or pit authorization, but we've not seen any of that happen in the last 20 minutes or so. And maybe we can pull that video up. The most outlandish thing we've seen this driver pull was this just a few minutes ago. About 55 miles an hour drive up on the sidewalk, evading some of the other cars that appeared to be stopped at a stop sign, driving on the sidewalk for a brief period of time, then re-entering this intersection before proceeding. Police officers did not follow the car up onto the sidewalk during all of this, but as you can see, the spotlight from the airship overhead the entire time. This car has not been able to outmaneuver police, and they have not pulled any maneuvers trying to ultimately get this car to stop. They just appear to be giving it its distance at certain points.
Yeah, traveling eastbound, it looks like on Greenleaf, now at Greenleaf in Santa Fe, making a right turn. That should be southbound onto Santa Fe. So now traveling southbound on Santa Fe Avenue. Which is where this all began roughly 20 minutes ago or so, was traveling southbound on Santa Fe, approaching the 405 freeway in South LA. So this car's not looking to go, jump on the zone here, just sort of making laps around some familiar neighborhoods, it seems. Whether they're trying to get away or just buy themselves some time, we don't know. That was a green light now under the underpass here. You can see traffic moving pretty nicely on a Saturday night. Not much to talk about in terms of traffic on the freeways, if that becomes another factor, or here as this driver continues on neighborhood. But there is wide open road here. You just hope that it doesn't hit a red light at the wrong time, at a pedestrian, at a car, at some kind of cross traffic, but wide open in both directions as this car continues to careen down Santa Fe Avenue, now approaching Victoria Street.
And we're seeing an update from our assignment desk here. The reason that it looked like that car drove up on the sidewalk just a few minutes ago, and we've pointed that out to you a few different times now, was that car appeared to be evading a spike strip, which I did not catch in that video when I was watching it live. So I guess police did try and lay down a spike strip. That car was able to outmaneuver it, drive on the sidewalk straight through the intersection, and keep going. That was easily 10 to 15 minutes ago at this point. That was that maneuver.
Did they just pull it? Oh, this is the video. The spike strip on the right and on the left is the live picture. Again, now I believe they were on Victoria. It's tough to see, but really burned by that night sun. They have them fully in their view right now, and the pursuing officers were trying to get the exact pursuing division and where we are going here. But another turn now. Long Beach Boulevard at Cambridge. Long Beach Boulevard, another major thoroughfare, now turning off onto Allington. So this is Allington just off of Long Beach Boulevard.
As we watch these pursuits, we're often sort of looking for something of note. What can we pick out about this vehicle? Are you able to see anybody inside the vehicle? Anything that might be identifying about all of this? And this has really sort of been the driver, vacillating between speeds of roughly 30 miles an hour up to about 75, but nothing of real note here. Now this driver appears to be on another residential street, a pretty dark one at this point, but as you keep mentioning, Jory, lit up by the light of that police airship overhead.
Yeah, Barclay Street looks like it's going to take it over to White Avenue. We'll see if if it's where I think it is. It should dead end over at White Avenue, Dameron and North Long Beach. Again, this is back into residential areas. I think we might have just been in this similar neighborhood because you see that curve right there. That is pretty atypical of what we've seen in some of these suburban areas, and now turning back again off of Dameron back onto Ron Avenue.
And it looks like at times that this car is about to end up in a neighborhood that looks to be a cul-de-sac or perhaps a dead end. And it appears as though the driver has a pretty good sense of these city streets because they keep being able to outmaneuver police here, not ending up in any area where they're forced to come to a sudden stop. This car's going a pretty low rate of speed at this point and does not seem to be concerned or show any signs of stopping with the officers close on the tail there.
Yeah, you see
now
people
you can see some people gathering out in the neighborhood, so clearly this has garnered some attention. This is the most activity we've seen.
Now pulling back out, if they make a right, this is Long Beach Boulevard, another U-turn. Now we're going the other way back on Long Beach Boulevard. And so this is this little neighborhood here. It's on either side of Long Beach Boulevard, just by the LA River. And I believe now traveling back southbound on Long Beach Boulevard.
And again, Saturday night here, you would think there might be a lot more traffic out, people out and about. It's 9 or almost 10 o'clock on a Saturday night. Now this car's making U-turns, but really has not been, caught in traffic at any point or having to pull any real crazy maneuvers to try and get around oncoming traffic or avoid other cars in the area. Now pulling down some sort of
an alley.
Side alleyway. We saw this happen just a little while ago before we came on the air. It appeared things were going to come to an end, and the car just keeps turning, evading officers.
And there you see an officer pull right in front of this car.
Almost box it in there.
Could have boxed it in or maybe getting ahead, pulling over. Now we'll see if they get out and pull a spike strip here. Okay, that driver's going to turn through a parking lot and avoid that cruiser. Back through an alleyway, now the other way. Moves like this kind of make me think that this person does know this neighborhood, and we're coming to a stop now. Driver is getting out and running.
Yeah.
We see another person. There's a passenger in the car right now. It's tough to tell. Is that a woman?
It's difficult to tell whether that's a male or female, but that person is taking off running at a pretty good speed, clearly trying to avoid officers. It appears as though that's a woman, though it's difficult to tell from this angle. Because we've seen this person maneuvering around city streets for the better part of 20 minutes now, you have to believe that this person has some sense of where they are now, sprinting down this alley. Being
lit up by that night sun. We'll see if there's some place that they try to hide, but right now in the middle of the alley, gonna go through a fence, and there's a pursuing officer, 1, 2, possibly 3, through a yard. This is not gonna last long, and
Yep.
she knows it.
Game of
And
tag,
down
that
she
person
goes.
is pinned down.
Okay, so one of those occupants of the car now in custody. This should be the driver. There was a second person who climbed out the driver's seat behind this person. There were at least 2 people in that vehicle. We'll see if our camera operator is able to find what is happening with that second person, but they had a delayed start to get out of that vehicle, less time to get away than this person had, and this person is now in custody. We'll see at least 2 people who are in this vehicle are now in custody, in handcuffs, being walked back to a police car.
And this all began as a pursuit in the South LA area about 9:15 this evening. Went on for about 45 minutes. Police believe that car that this person was driving, that red sedan, to have been stolen.
Yeah, so you think about on a Saturday night, people just think they're going to go out for a joyride in a car that's not theirs. They get to spend the night in jail and face multiple charges here, potentially, life-changing mistake that someone makes to make a terrible decision, and look at where they are now, about to head in cuffs into the back of a police cruiser.
And it'll be interesting to see what happens with the other person who was inside that vehicle. It was unclear for most of that pursuit if this was just a driver, if there were perhaps multiple people inside that car. It appeared, as you said, Jory, that we saw at least one other person leap out of that vehicle, take off in a different direction. So you have to imagine there's an entire other team of officers out there, either searching for that person or perhaps taking that person into custody.
Yeah, is it possible to check and see if we see a second scene here? Anyone else in custody? It shouldn't be too far away. That was just about yeah, we see those cruisers over there. That is where that vehicle came to a stop, and
But the trunk popped open, so clearly
So
they're
they're
searching
searching the
this vehicle
vehicle.
now. It's difficult to tell if there's anybody else there. It doesn't
there
appear.
it is right there. That's the second person.
Okay.
That is the passenger right there. So 2 people now in custody. This is not the blue sweatshirted
No, that is a
individual.
different person.
Yep, so this is someone else. 2 people, 2 occupants of this vehicle bailed, and both are now in custody. Vehicle appears to be cleared. I don't know if there was anybody else, so we don't know if this is code 4, all clear just yet. But as far as we know, the 2 people that we saw emerge from that vehicle both appear to be in custody.
Both who had taken off on foot trying to evade officers, both now caught. We're going to continue to watch this situation, and we'll be back on the air in just about 30 minutes on ABC 7.
This has been breaking news on Eyewitness News. Get alerted first to